Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. It's the Tuesday, January 6, 2026 episode of the Marco Dre Show. Thank you for tuning in to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world. The only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcast. Please share it if you can. Now available on all streaming apps for you. Let's get down to brass tacks to start off the best hour of radio, uncensored and ready to go as always. Let's jump right into my first topic and not waste any time today. This is in Forbes today. And Representative Ro Khanna of California, who helped co-sponsor the Epstein Files Transparency Act, said that on Saturday, he would like to have lawmakers ask a federal judge to appoint a special master to help handle this Epstein Files release. Because, again, we're not getting the information that we are supposed to already. We've already missed the December 19th deadline. And by the way, a special master would be somebody appointed by a judge to ensure that the judicial orders are as followed, and again, to make sure that the processes are taking place in any type of legal case like this. So, again, it would be a neutral third-party individual, again, would be tasked to kind of oversee how these documents are handled, how they're reviewed, and obviously the release, which is, again, the purpose of the entire law. This is probably one of the few things we've had this overwhelming bipartisan support for as of late. Now, Democrats, of course, were expressing concerns over the DOJ withholding materials that could be damaging to President Trump or his allies. It's unclear, though, whether these Democrats would go to court with that request. I don't know. Obviously, we're releasing files. We should be releasing the files. That's the whole purpose of this. We want to know what happened in this case. We want to know how many victims there are. We want to know if anyone's going to be arrested. As of late, not a single person's even been charged, though. Unless, of course, you count Ghislaine Maxwell. One person with over 1,200 victims? Come on. So the DOJ now is saying that they're still reviewing these additional 2 million documents. Again, I find it funny. 2 million documents in a case of one guy doing all this illegal activity? It's unbelievable. It's unclear, though, if all of them would be disclosed under the Act. But although the law does allow the government to withhold some information, this is the kicker. The law does allow the government to withhold some information like classified materials, those depicting death or abuse. This is the crux of the whole argument, isn't it? Young women, minors, being abused sexually by individuals, adults. And God knows what else is in these files. Or any other materials that are relevant to ongoing government investigation. So now what they can do, this is the kicker with all this. Now what they can come in and do and say is, well, look, we've got this ongoing investigation, even though we told you this whole thing was a Democratic hoax. And we can't release these files because they're necessary to our investigation. Oh, we can't release these files because this talks about something, taboo. It talks about death of someone or some sort of abuse that took place. So we're going to redact some of this, but we're going to give you, a couple little lines here and there, maybe a picture here and there. But we're going to release all the files. Don't you worry about it. Where the hell is this transparency? When is someone going to get charged for what's happening here? You're telling me all these people were associates or friends with or knew very closely or went to this island where all these awful things happened? And yet we can't seem to figure out anybody that should be charged with this. Wouldn't the reasonable thing be that the DOJ would meet with these people that were, again, very close friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and actually interrogate them at the very least? Again, I'm not saying anyone committed any type of crime. I'm saying maybe they can use these people to help indicate people that committed crimes. Just food for thought. Not that I think any of that's going to happen. Again, we would have seen this by now. We're almost a year into the Trump administration. Yet nothing has been happening. One thing I will say, though, that's very odd with all this. The DOJ was required to release these materials in the Epstein files 15 days after the December 19th deadline. Now, that date would have been January 3rd, 2026. Well, guess what? That was last Saturday. What happened last Saturday? Well, for those that may have forgotten, that was the day we went in and abducted Maduro. And, of course, his wife in Caracas on drug charges, despite what I explained to you on yesterday's show. Even the DEA, by the way, states that Venezuela is no major trafficker of cocaine into the United States. So get this. On the day we're supposed to have a release of the remaining documents, the required documents, nothing happened at all. Did any files get posted that day? Was anything released? No, they weren't. So again, smoke and mirrors, folks. This is what it comes down to. Look over here. Don't pay attention to what's happening over here. Just let's blow that under the rug. It does make more sense why Congress now wasn't notified ahead of time, too, about this attack that took place. I guess you call it attack, abduction, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. A military operation. But you think if they were notified of this ahead of time, like, hey, on this day, by the way, we're going to be going into Venezuela to take Nicolas Maduro. By the way, that's a power you're supposed to give to us, the executive branch. Don't worry about it. Do you think Thomas Massie or Ro Khanna would forget this or allow this to even happen? By the way, I'll remind you all that Congress is the branch that is supposed to declare war and allow these operations to take place, despite, of course, what you've been told. This is indeed a war of sorts, right? Right now it's in a very small phase, of course, but the pieces are in place to make a much bigger conflict. And by the way, the more I look into this coup that took place, this coup d'etat, the more it reeks of an inside job. And again, I hate to get off topic here for the moment, but it reeks of an inside job here. Just like in Syria. Remember that? The army was taking off their uniforms. They're standing down. Who ordered this stand down? Against a rebel army of Al-Qaeda members that they've defeated time and time again. All of a sudden, they just take their uniforms off and let them take over? Of course, Bashar al-Assad flees the country. And now we have Al-Qaeda leader, now leading the government there. A murder of American citizens, by the way, and American soldiers. It's disgusting. So this, to me, again, no response at a military base? The guy lives on a military base in Caracas. You're telling me that we totally circumvented all their air defense? It doesn't make any sense to me, folks, does it? Does it make any sense to you? This clearly reeks of a CIA bought off, obviously, some of the Venezuelan elites that will play ball with the American businessmen. Obviously, this is what's happening right now, for those of you that don't know. What's happening is the American interests are moving into Venezuela. The powers that be in Venezuela allow this to happen. Someone was asked to stand down. Why do you think Maduro didn't look worried at all? And any of the footage you saw of him in the excellent wardrobe that he brought along with him, he doesn't seem that alarmed. Did he know it was going to happen? Did he say, let's do it now? I mean, we don't know, of course. I'm speculating. But it didn't seem like it was, again, not coordinated. It seemed like it was very, very precise what was taking place. And, people with no scruples, no loyalty whatsoever, can always be bought for the right price. So did the Venezuelan elite allow this to happen? I ask you. Probably. And in this case, they now will, either play ball or they'll be taken out too. Who knows? Jesus was right. The love of money is the root of all evil. Absolutely, absolutely. This is how things get run. So anyways, I just find it odd that this deadline was the exact day that this whole coup took place. And of course, it's been rampant in the media ever since. So again, anytime you see something big like this happen, something out of the cuff, always look at what was supposed to happen that day or what's happening in the background. Just thought I'd share that with you. So Congress passed legislation back in November requiring the federal government to release these Epstein files. So my question is, who is going to hold the DOJ accountable? That's the big question here. Is anyone going to hold them? He's, Khan is talking about a special masters to go in and do this. Who is going to hold the DOJ accountable when they don't do anything? Now, in this law, there's no mechanism that allows any type of punishment if the government doesn't comply with it. And even if it did, the DOJ would not prosecute itself for violating its own law. That's another problem here. Now, maybe in the future, a Democrat administration could come in and still bring charges against those who failed to comply with the law. I don't know. But we see now, obviously, Democratic lawmakers suggesting that they could try to go to courts to force the release of these files. I don't know. Maybe they will. I have no idea. But Ro Khanna told NPR on Saturday as well that he hopes to hold Bondi in contempt, which would then force the Attorney General to pay a fine each day the full files are not released. Isn't this funny, though? We're supposed to have the most transparent administration. We're all behind this, by the way. We're going to release the Epstein files, the JFK files, the MLK files, RFK files. And what do we get? Nothing. We got nothing so far. We're no closer to the truth than we were a year ago at this time. So it makes you wonder, folks, who are they trying to protect? Why has nobody been charged? And will we ever see what's in these files without any of this massive redaction? To me, I say we're not going to get it. Don't hope for it. Don't wish upon it. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So again, it's wishful thinking, I believe, if you hope that this does happen. We should know what's going on. We should know if people involved in this, why they aren't being charged. We should know any of the victims that have been, accosted with this situation and the suffering they had to go through. Why is there no justice for them? And we should know if there's any type of intelligence or blackmail that's going on. Again, we know this guy had video recording devices in every single room in his mansions. That's a bit odd, don't you think, folks? It's a bit strange. So is there any information on these documents that we can look into? These video files? Can it allege anyone with any type of crime? Has the DOJ gone over this? Nobody's asking these questions. I go over these questions because I want to know what the hell's going on. But nobody asks the tough questions. Everyone kind of plays ball with it. Nothing gets done. Then we're told, oh, no, we're gonna release the files. Don't worry. Then we got to push it back. Then we got to keep pushing it back and a little bit further back. Now they're talking about maybe in a couple of weeks we'll be able to get more files. It's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. But, something else will pop up then, too, and people forget all about it. Well, they're focused on Venezuela and, of course, their liberation. That's simply not going to be happening right now. Right? Everyone gets happy about that. They talk about that. It floods the news. Then, of course, we forget all about the importance. What's going on here? What's going on in our country? Yep, nothing new under the sun, folks. Always the same thing. Smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. Bloomberg's got an article out today. It says that Donald Trump's rationale for decapitating Venezuela's government is fueling concerns among European officials. Oh, really? They finally have woken up in Europe. That's amazing to me. What they're talking about here is the existential dilemma over Donald Trump's desire to annex Greenland and take it away from Denmark. Obviously, that could certainly happen. It wouldn't take too much effort to do so. And I told you this yesterday. The precedent that was set yesterday, that this is our hemisphere, this is what we're going to do, we can do this because of the Monroe Doctrine, all these other assessments that have been made, of course. The issue here is the precedent moving forward now. Can China say now that, well, this is our hemisphere, right? With the Eastern Hemisphere, we're going to control American interests from being present in the region. It's our interest to take Taiwan, so we're going to do that. Hey, we might even take Japan too. Who the hell knows? Right? Can a country use these tactics too, by the way, to overthrow a government they don't like and install a puppet president that they do like? Anything goes right now. Anything goes right now. So the U.S. president over the last couple of weeks has explained that his decision to detain Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, and have, of course, the U.S. run the country itself as a modern rival of the 19th century Monroe Doctrine, which, by the way, isn't anything of any substance, by the way. The Monroe Doctrine was a simple executive order to Congress that we're going to keep out any type of European influences or colonization or intervention in the Western Hemisphere. That went away very, very quickly, too, by the way. It was never implemented in any serious way, of course. And it didn't come back to until after World War I, when we said, hey, look, we got involved in this conflict in Europe. We lost over 100,000 men in a couple, very short amount of time, too. We entered the war very, very late. And look at the casualties. Look at the money we spent on this. And look at the state of Europe right now. We shouldn't even have been involved in this. There was no threat to U.S. national security, of course. Unless, of course, you look at the Zimmerman telegram, which, again, we know now is completely fabricated and made up. But there's always these false flags that get you into these wars, isn't it, folks? Always seems to be the way. But now we're calling it the Don Road Doctrine, as dubbed by President Trump. And, of course, this essentially claims a U.S. right to, I guess, lead the entirety of the Western Hemisphere and, again, control it with any critical assets that we see fit, whenever we see fit. So if we don't like Venezuela's leader, we'll take out Venezuela's leader. If we don't like Colombia's president, we'll take him out too. We'll overthrow the president of Cuba, right? We'll do that. Maybe we don't like Scheinbaum in there. Maybe we'll throw her ass out next. Who knows? But President Trump right now is eyeing Greenland in the midst of, I guess, national security somehow. And having Greenland is going to bolster up our national security presence in the region. I don't know. Doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But what I don't understand here is that if Venezuela would like to trade with China, Iran, Russia, India, whoever the hell else they want to trade with, what say do we have in that? It's commerce. It's trade. That's how the economies work, folks. Just so we're all clear on this, we trade with China, don't we? So again, I don't understand this in a sense of logic, why we're doing this. But it makes sense if you understand that Venezuela has an abundance of crude oil. It's dirty oil. It's full of sulfur, of course. It has to be processed in a much more difficult manner when they refine this, of course. And it's much more difficult to get it out of the ground. But nonetheless, we'd like to have access to it. ExxonMobil would like to have access to this. The big oil interests would love to have access to this. So we're going to go in and we're going to take this oil, even though it's not ours. And it will enrich some people. So it will look good, of course, on paper. They also have a lot of gold deposits. Again, it's not very well manufactured right now. It's very difficult to get to some of these mines and what have you. They've got lots of silver. They've got lots of diamonds as well. Lots of resources in Venezuela, if cultivated correctly. And again, they have iron ore, they have other things, feldspar, what have you, natural gas. There's a lot of stuff they can use here. And so people will exploit that, and people get rich. That's what it comes down to. It all comes down to resources. If their major export was rice, do you think we'd be down there, folks, cultivating more rice? I don't think so. Anyways, let's talk Greenland, though. That's the most important part. For Europe, of course, and NATO itself, obviously carrying the titanic ramifications of what's happening here, Trump is now moving on Greenland, which again would put the United States against other members of NATO. Again, tarnishing NATO's credibility, of course, and heaping an unprecedented burden on the EU itself to enter the military realm of which we're pushing ourselves into. Now, the Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen said Monday that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. That's not incorrect, by the way, but why do we even have NATO right now? Again, I'm not advocating us just taking Greenland, don't get me wrong. But NATO should have been gone in the early 1990s. Once the Warsaw Pact ended after the Soviet Union collapsed, we should have ended NATO. It should have been over with. Yet it's still there and it's still growing, of course. Why? Because we want to put a buffer between Europe and NATO. We want to weaken Russia. And by the way, folks, that's what this whole takeover of Venezuela is all about. Just so we're all clear on this. It has to do with Russia and China and Iran. Just thought I'd bring that up to you, just because I know no one else is telling this to you. But that's what this all comes down to. We will try to affect the trade of Russia. Right? And we don't like Maduro because he wants to get into BRICS. He's trading in the Chinese yuan. He's not trading in petrodollars anymore. So we've got to stop this right now. We've got to take control of this asset. We've got to take control of it. And we've got to start using American dollars to pay for it. So again, there's so many economic values that go along with this takeover, which again make plenty of sense, although none of it's legal, of course. I don't really know much more I can really say on this. I don't know if the European leaders are happy about this. I can't think that they would be. But can they do anything about it? That's the question. Look how weak those European militaries are. Of course, we have Merz of Germany coming out and saying, well, we want a stronger Germany. We want a stronger military. We want to bolster it up. Okay, well, you're coming off of 3 years of a recession there, pal. What the hell are you going to build up? Look at your population. It's crumbling right in front of your eyes. You've imported so many people from the third world, God even knows who you'd have in your military. Just food for thought. But Frederiksen of Denmark led a coalition of European leaders, so they're talking about Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, all emphasized that sentiment in a joint statement. And what did it say? Well, it said, must be achieved collectively in conjunction with NATO allies, including the United States, by upholding the principles of the UN Charter. Well, we just violated the UN Charter, folks. I don't think Trump or Rubio, who just came out and blasted the UN, well, the UN doesn't know what they're talking about. This guy was a lawyer, too, by the way, if you can believe that. It says here that by upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the involuntarily of the borders. Yep. So again, we're totally mincing borders now. We have no borders. Saying Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland, and only to them. And to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. Again, who's going to put up a fight on this? Donald Trump's made it pretty clear, folks. If he wants to invade a country now, nobody can stop us. Nobody can stop us. Maybe Russia, maybe China. That's it. That's it. No one else is going to come close to even stopping us or deterring us from what we want to do. And that's the whole purpose of this article. This is the problem. We've set a precedent for if we want to take something, we'll take it because we feel entitled to it. By the way, how many billions of dollars is this going to cost us to station troops, obviously station the weaponry that needs to go in place here? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult. And as time goes on, this is going to cost more money. We spent over $1 trillion in Iraq. How did that investment go? Not very good, of course. Lots going on, folks. Lots of things heating up. And I told you before, expect a conflict with Iran coming up. That's going to happen sooner than you think. It will happen. Donald Trump's already set the precedent for that. That'll probably be what happens next. Yesterday was Venezuela. Soon it'll be Iran, excuse me. And at some point it'll be Cuba. It'll be Colombia. It'll be Mexico. And anyone else who Donald Trump views as a threat to the United States. You know, I find it funny, too. We talked about, obviously, no new wars, and yet we see this regime change as just a constant motif in 2026 now all of a sudden. Make no mistake, this was all precedent long ago, too. We're going back to 2019. We had CIA officers and agents inside Venezuela trying to overturn this government. There's nothing new. It's always been in the back of Donald Trump's mind. Now it actually happened, though. It actually happened. And I expect Maduro to either make some kind of agreement or some type of plea. He obviously pled guilty to these charges. I think he'll offer some kind of truce that he will walk away. He'll go live abroad somewhere, and he will no longer be the president. And if this Miss Rodriguez gets out of line too, we'll just simply take her out too. We'll go down the line. We'll go down the totem pole to the next person that we think can run the government for us the way we want to see fit. And the same thing will happen in Greenland at some point. If Donald Trump wants Greenland, we'll take Greenland. Right? And that'll hopefully deter Russia and China. Now, as a response to all this, Russia and China both have moved additional resources into that area, vying for control with the United States and, of course, its NATO allies. So again, it's going to be heating up, of course, in the region. It's not going to get better anytime soon, folks. Trust me. Trust me. And by the way, if we continue to spend this type of money, our national debt's going to easily hit $40 trillion sometime soon, because this is not a cheap venture of any sorts. Yep, especially to maintain these areas, too. If you're maintaining Venezuela or have a military presence there, cost a lot of money every single day, folks. That adds up. Oh, folks, heating up very, very quickly. Heating up very, very quickly. It's not going to stop anytime soon, so don't expect it. Expect Iran very, very shortly. Something will happen. There'll be some sort of false flag. They'll say the government killed a protester. We've got to go in now and save the Iranian people. Save the Iranian people. Okay. We'll see what happens. But it's going to happen soon. Just trust me. All right, moving on. This one is another article today that is a bit shocking to me, that we're experiencing what we're experiencing right now. So, out of Time magazine says, Senator Mark Kelly vows to fight this after Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announces actions against Senator over illegal orders video. Now, we all heard this video. I'll play it momentarily. But let me explain to you what's going on here. Our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is, gone from blowing up fishing boats in the Caribbean to attacking a now sitting U.S. Senator, Mark Kelly. And he has since obviously retired from the Navy, where he served as a captain. By the way, this guy has a very, very impressive career with the Navy, where he flew a high-performance attack aircrafts, flying some 39 combat missions during the Gulf War in 1990. Becomes an astronaut, flew in 4 space shuttle missions, and even served as a space flight commander in NASA. And I have my issues with the NASA, but this is all pretty impressive stuff. So again, these are highly skillful tasks that are no way are very easy to the average American. This guy is a fairly talented individual. Now, of course, on top of all that, he's highly decorated too, by the way. Receiving 2 awards for the Distinguished Flying Cross. So this is an award for heroism, achievements in aerial flights. He received an Air Medal for merit achievement during combat. He received a Navy Achievement Medal. And, of course, a Navy Commendation Medal. So, again, very, very decorated. Now, he also has several NASA spaceflight medals as well. The NASA Distinguished Service or Exponential Service Medal. And he was also inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame back in 2023. In other words, besides my objections to his political beliefs and his stances that he's taken or how he votes, he's a highly skilled individual, and he's a very highly decorated patriot as well. Now, some of you listening out there are thinking to yourselves, well, no one in the military can be a Democrat, right? Why would they be a Democrat? Or they can't be an intelligent. Well, obviously that's not true. I'm here to tell you that's not true. Because obviously Mark Kelly is. Again, despite what you might believe about his politics, he's a very decorated patriot. He served his country. And we should all applaud people that do that. It's very, very important. Pete Hegseth did too, right? Why is Hegseth, who's also a member of the U.S. military, who served in the Army National Guard, received 2 Bronze Stars, served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Why is he going after Kelly now, a fellow serviceman, to strip him of his retirement pension? What the hell's going on here? Now, Kelly took to X and said over 25 years in the U.S. Navy, 39 combat missions and 4 missions to space, I risked my life for this country and to defend our Constitution, including the First Amendment rights of every American to speak out. Of course, he's alluding to the video that he did with the other, I think 4 or 5 other members of Congress and the Democratic Party not too long ago. He said, I would never expect that the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense would attack me for doing exactly that. Again, this is a very big losing position. It doesn't make any sense to do this. As far as I knew, and again, I've looked at this, I talked to you about it when it happened. I don't understand this for the life of me, but Senator Kelly has not been found guilty of anything. Any of the statutes in the UCMJ, that'd be the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and he was actually investigated by the Pentagon, where Pete Hegseth works and controls. So Mark Kelly didn't violate any laws. So this is why I don't understand this. So you're upset that he said something you disagree with? Again, he has the First Amendment right to say what he would like. Again, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. But he does have that right. And again, I don't understand this for the life of me, why he thinks this is a winning position to take. Stripping, obviously, a veteran of the Navy who rose to captain of his pension, to me, is, I gotta understand it. I don't know why right now of all times would this be something that they would look and say, you know what, this is a great idea. This is going to get us some more votes in 2026 if we go out and attack Senator Mark Kelly. It's so dumb. And by the way, after Kelly shared his statement, soon after Hegseth announced on X that his department was initiating these proceedings against Kelly, obviously talking about the pension reduction, of course, and that he had issued a letter of censure now to ensure this action. Again, it's mind-boggling. He wrote, 6 weeks ago, Senator Mark Kelly and 5 other members of Congress released a reckless and seditious video, right? We were all told at the time it was sedition, right? Even though it's not sedition. That was clearly intended to undermine good order and military discipline, Hegseth said. As a retired Navy captain who is still receiving a military pension, Captain Kelly knows he is still accountable to military justice and the Department of War, which is really the Department of Defense, and the American people expect justice. Okay, Mr. Hegseth, fine. It's on you then. What law did he break? Why is he not brought under the UCMJ? Because obviously he hasn't broken any laws. They've looked at this. They investigated it. He hasn't been brought up on any charges, which again he would be had he broken the law. So again, I don't understand this, folks. It makes no sense. Let me play you the video, though, that they're all alluding to right now. And again, I don't know why we're coming back to this. At the time when I heard this, I told you I wasn't very fond of it. I didn't agree with everything they were talking about, certainly. But they have a right to say this. They have a right to say this. Take a listen.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals.
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad.
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army.
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Okay. Don't give up the ship. All right. Now, do I agree with everything they said here? That the government is pitting the military against American citizens? I don't believe that. I do know what they were referring to, of course. They were talking about probably the military being present in American cities. But do I think that these people need to be brought under some sort of justice? Again, I don't know what laws they broke. They were allowed to speak freely. Does that mean Mark Kelly can't go up in front of Congress and speak about what's taking place with the military? What, because they put it on a YouTube video, all of a sudden it's null and void? They can't do it? They're sitting members of Congress. They're no longer active military. There are rules, of course, for retired military as well. But unless Pete Hegseth can point to us what laws he broke, this whole thing is completely ridiculous, and it makes no sense to attack a member of Congress like this and censure him and threaten his pension. It makes no sense. And by the way, if you're going to do it for Mark Kelly, why not the other 5? What's stopping him? So they do a lousy job of obviously providing us with why they're doing this. There's really no reason for it, other than you didn't really like what he had to say. There's that too. All right, moving on. This is in the New York Post. This is ridiculous too, by the way. Can't even believe this took place. It says that alleged JD Vance home vandal is the son of a wealthy doctor and Democratic donor who recently changed name to Julia. Wonderful, wonderful. So now we've got a prominent Democrat's son. Well, I guess that refers to himself as, they changed the name. But his name was, well, let me see this. Well, he changed his name to Julia, but the cops listed the suspect's name as William and his sex as male. Yep, so we're dealing with a very unhinged person, folks. And this is not good that we continue to see these types of attacks constantly like this. And the idea that someone will go up to the vice president's home and start beating on the windows with, I believe a hammer is what it was, attempting to shatter 4 windows at the Vance home, and was attempting to break into the house around midnight. The Vances, who moved into the vice president's official residence in Washington, D.C. after the inauguration, were not in Ohio at the time. So this obviously took place in Cincinnati, not in D.C., of course. This is very troubling, though. This is extremely troubling that we're seeing these types of instances where people are thinking that it's okay to go out and commit these types of violent acts. Now, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do breaking in the home. But thankfully, it didn't happen, and that nobody was home or harmed, of course. This is a troubling thing that we see constantly, don't we, with this group of people? These people who need medical attention, who don't get it, and who feel very violent. Remember, the people that are on these hormone drugs, obviously it's affecting their brain chemistry and what have you. And then we see these types of violent acts that take place very often. We see this. It's not something you can really hide. We see this constantly. So the father, I guess, is a longtime Democratic supporter. So what, of course? He donated upwards of $5,000, not a small sum, by the way, to former President Joe Biden and former Vice President, not President. That'd be disgraceful. Kamala Harris, respectively, in their campaigns in 2020 and 2024. He also previously backed a federal assault weapons ban in the wake of Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde, Texas, according to his Facebook. So really, it comes down to the kid. The kid is messed up. That's what it comes down to. And it appears he is, as it said here, fallen from grace after graduating in 2018 from Summit Country Day School. I'm sure that's not cheap. Where he was hailed as a candidate for U.S. presidential scholars programs. He had a 2-year stint at the University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music, but appeared to drop out in 2020. Now, according to his Facebook is what is telling us this. He said earlier this year that he was attending Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. So where does the violence come from? Well, there's many different things. There's many facets to this. Obviously, mental health plays a huge role in this. And apparently, the alleged vandal had a stint with mental illness history, including a 2024 sentence for 2 counts of vandalism at a local interior design company. So this is a pattern, obviously, getting out of control, a little bit more, till the point now that you're trying to break into someone's home. Now, whether he's trying to steal something, whether he's trying to hurt somebody, I don't know. That hasn't been brought to light yet. But DeFore is charged with obstructing official business, criminal damaging or endangering, criminal trespass, and vandalism, according to Hamilton County Jail records. He'll be scheduled for his first court appearance on Tuesday. Yep. Look at this. Look at this. It says here, oh, by the way, look at this. April 2023, DeFore was charged with trespassing at the UC Health Psychiatric and Emergency Services. He was originally held on a $10,000 bond, but a judge determined that he was not mentally competent to stand trial, and the counts were dismissed in November 8th filing of that year. So this is a pattern with a lot of these people. And this type of person is not well, folks. This type of person needs help and support, but he's not getting it. And as the mental illness takes over, things are going to continue to get much, much worse. So the idea that this person was already held in such a way, why the parents didn't intervene to do something to help this kid, I have no idea. But this is not a good pattern. This is not a good pattern at all. And of course, obviously against a politician, our vice president, JD Vance, and of course his family at risk is awful. And nobody should be putting up with this nonsense. Nobody should be putting up with this type of nonsense. So again, I'm glad he was detained. I'm glad he's going to be caught, and hopefully he will try accordingly to the law to prevent any type of action like this from happening again. But we've seen this before. We saw someone coming from Simi Valley, California, right where the Ronald Reagan Library is too, by the way, going all the way out to the D.C. area to try to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. Remember that? I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. That these are things that are happening with these unhinged Democrats. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better. That's the problem. Things are not getting any better with this type of violence that we're seeing from this community. And again, I'm not alleging that the Simi Valley assailant was a trans, but what I'm saying is these Democrats feel that it's okay. They're brazen enough to travel across the country with a weapon to try to murder somebody. In this case, our politicians. So again, the book has got to be thrown on these people. This has got to stop. Because we cannot live in a society where this type of violence, this uptick in violence, especially against politicians, is something that is continuing to get worse and worse and worse. All right, something positive, though. I'm going to go over something positive. I always hate sometimes the articles I give you are negative. But this one's a good one. This one's in Breitbart. It says here that DeSantis has now detained some 10,400 illegal aliens, and he arrested them during the Florida historic Operation Tidal Wave. I like this. This is good. This is positive. We can all get behind this, I hope. But obviously this massive immigration crackdown in Florida has, again, resulted in Ron DeSantis working with the federal government, which is what I like to see. We see this with other Republican governors like Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma. Fantastic governor, by the way. Doesn't get the credit he deserves. But he's fantastic, too. And they do a lot of these operations where they're using the highway patrol in their states. They're detaining people. They don't have the proper documentation. And they deport these people. So again, I'm very happy to see this. And Ron DeSantis took to social media and said, "Today I was proud to announce a new milestone in our joint effort to combat illegal immigration and restore order in our communities. Florida law enforcement has arrested more than 10,400 illegal," he says immigrants here, I'll say illegal aliens, that's a proper term, "across the state. Florida leads again." He's right. He's absolutely right about this. At another press conference on Monday, Attorney General James Uthmeier explained officials are working to ensure residents are safe from illegal alien crime. He said people are preying upon and abusing little children that are illegal aliens, of course, have no business being here in the first place. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we saw the illegal aliens that were detained by the Trump administration. All these people have lots and lots of crimes against them. And of course, they're released back into the public, and they're not held with a detainer. It's not a good thing when we have these rogue states that put these people back out into the population so they can continue to, have this recidivism rates and hurt more people. Should never happen in the first place. Of course, these people should never be in the country in the first place. Many of these people have been in the country for quite some time. They're not just the recent influx of the Biden-Harris. We always want to link the two together because they were like two schmucks in a room. Anyways, they're absolutely right about this. But what's more here is that 60% of these arrestees had prior criminal records or convictions. And of course, I noted that Florida remains the only state to mandate Code 287G cooperation all across its 67 counties to assist federal deportation efforts. So Federal 287G was a response, obviously, to the Illegal Immigration and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996. And it delegates the power of ICE to certain immigration enforcement functions happening to state and local enforcement agencies. So even though this is a federal issue, and of course the Fed should be tackling this, it allows these state officials to cooperate and make arrests, obviously detain people that are legal aliens in order to keep the functions of ICE going in the right direction and help with this type of oversight. And you're seeing how a state government can function with the federal government to actually ensure some sort of success with these deportations of people that have absolutely zero right to be in this country. So there's that. So again, I love that Ron DeSantis has done this. He said, indeed, the White House said in November that Operation Dirtbag resulted in the arrest of over 150 illegal alien sex predators in Florida alone. I mean, this is horrible. And this is why we need very well vetted, very well checked, very well necessary immigration in this country. Not simply everybody that wants to come in should come in. And that's not me saying there aren't great people in every single country. Don't get me wrong. There are many great people all over the world that come here, of every different race, religion, and creed that come here, that want to become Americans, that contribute to society. But this, every single year we allow 1 million people in, 1 million people in, 1 million people in. And on top of that, you have several million illegal aliens already here. It just doesn't work out, folks. There should be a memorandum on immigration, if you ask me. And again, I don't say that because I hate people. I say it because the country simply doesn't need any immigration right now. It's unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary. Even the H-1B visa program right now is absolutely unnecessary. We have the talent here in the United States to take good-paying tech jobs. I would hope so. We have some of the best tech schools in the world right here in America. So I'm very happy Ron DeSantis did this. I'm glad they have good numbers. The funding has been obviously awarded to these local enforcement agencies. Of course, that enroll in the federal 287G program to partner with the Department of Homeland Security in these immigration actions. And again, Ron DeSantis is really this focal point. And in my own opinion, I'm just going to say this right now. You ask me who's going to run in 2028 and who would actually be successful and palatable to the Republican base, it's Ron DeSantis. Just thought I'd bring that up to you. I don't see anyone else as being a viable candidate. Certainly not in the debate forum as well. Because you know they're going to throw out a Gavin Newsom or somebody like a Gavin Newsom. Ron DeSantis, some of you may remember this, had a debate with Gavin Newsom on Fox News with Sean Hannity as the moderator. And DeSantis destroyed him. It wasn't even close. JD Vance, Marco Rubio, anyone else you can throw at Gavin Newsom, as horrible as he is, and believe you me, he is horrible. Nobody's going to out-debate him, except for Ron DeSantis. Maybe somebody else could. I don't know. Again, we're a little bit of ways. But Ron DeSantis is putting himself in a position where he has a hell of a track record. He's done some things I disagree with, don't get me wrong. I certainly don't like the red flag gun law bill that he put in place. Don't like that at all. There's a couple other things I disagree with, but overall, he leads the freest state in the union. He follows the law. He's a decent enough orator where he can generate some type of presence. This is what we need right now. It isn't all about being showy and condescending and making jokes. He gets to the point and he makes his case. And that's what we need right now after the Trump administration. Because again, a lot of people are sick of the way Trump handles things, the way he speaks. They're upset the way, obviously, that we conduct ourselves sometimes. So we need someone that is professional, presidential, and knowledgeable of the law in of itself. And again, he ran Florida for 8 years with very great success. That's why it's called the free state of Florida, folks. I wish every single state was like that, but it is not the case. But there we go. There we go. He's doing a great job. And again, DeSantis was one of the first state governors, by the way, to pledge to even help Trump implement this immigration policy as President Trump prepared to take office for his second term. So he's very, very good. He obviously was a member of Congress before. He understands the process. And in doing so, he's able to understand what's going on. So he knows how to work with the federal government. He knows the role as governor, as executive, how he can now work with other state governors and what have you. So, again, I hope he runs. I imagine he will run. But I think he's my pick if he runs. He'd be fantastic, I think. At least right now I do. All right, moving on. Gateway Pundits. I got to go over this with you. This one is a bit troubling to me. It says that House Republicans quietly slipped pesticide immunity into a spending bill recently and is now being forced to yank the Section 453 after massive backlash. You know, these big chemical companies that obviously control the food supply are putting these toxic chemicals into conventional foods. How the House Republicans thought that they can just quietly put this in the bill and nobody would figure this out is beyond me. But let me read this language to you so we're all on the same page with this. And by the way, this got a massive backlash due to watchdog groups, conservative commentators alike. House leadership then had to yank this provision. Listen to this. Section 453 said none of the funds made available by this or any act may be used to issue or adopt any guidance or policy, take any regulatory action, or approve any labeling change to such labeling that is inconsistent with or in any respect different from the conclusion of a human health assessment performed pursuant to the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, or Rodenticide Act. A carcinogenicity classification for a pesticide is the other category. So here's what they're doing. In a nutshell, this is what they're talking about here. They want to freeze pesticide labels in place, regardless of any new emerging science. So if you figure out, for example, that a toxic chemical like, for example, glyphosate, which is sprayed on all of our crops except organic crops, which again is an active ingredient in this compound called Roundup, which is what farmers use today. And again, it's owned by Bayer. It's a German manufacturer. They bought it from Monsanto. They bought Monsanto out. Had been around for about 100 years prior to that. This is nothing new, by the way. But what's going on is, here's the kicker. Lately, Bayer has experienced a big stock price crash and is on the hook for about $16 billion in settlements from glyphosate cancer litigation. I just want to repeat that because I think it's really important for you to hear this. There's $16 billion in the hole from glyphosate cancer litigation. So again, they're constantly losing in court cases. Again, overwhelming evidence that links glyphosate connected to things like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's like the other type of cancers as well. It's linked to infertility, among other things. Is this good? Is this bad? I think it's pretty awful, don't you? I mean, look at this. Neurological diseases as well. And they're on the hook for this. Now, again, if this becomes apparent that, hey, this product I'm eating contains Roundup, which means it has the active ingredient glyphosate in it. And look, I'm getting sick. It could be linked to this. This compound, and by the way, there's other compounds that are carcinogens as well. But over time, you look at this, say, I'm eating the same foods, I'm getting sick. Obviously, it could be linked to this cancer-causing agent, glyphosate. They don't want you to know about it, though. That's the problem. Now, similarly, paraquat, manufactured by ChemChina, is also tightly connected to Parkinson's disease, again, neurological disorder, and litigation for that is underway. So again, it's a pesticide that is banned for the use in China, yet they sell it here in the United States. And now they want legal immunity when people get Parkinson's from their product. You see the problem with this. How the Republicans, of all people, could put this into a bill to push this forward on the American people, again, is awful to see this. Whoever did this, by the way, their name should be very well known. But of course, they're pushing this type of misinformation by these big chemical and petrochemical interests. So there you go. There you have. So thank God for the watchdog groups that come out and say, you know what, enough is enough here. We're sick of the toxins being sprayed in our foods, getting sick. By the way, Mel Gibson, I saw this a couple days ago. He was in Italy. And he came out, and this was actually pretty interesting. He came out and said, hey, I'm in Italy. And I love the food here. And I notice when I'm here, I eat the same foods I'd eat in America. And I'm paraphrasing it, of course. He says, I'm not gaining any weight. Because I can eat all the pasta I want, the pizza I want. And I'm not gaining any weight. And he starts talking about how glyphosate is a major problem. They don't use this in Europe. They're banned from using this. Apparently they're banned from using it in China, too. That particular chemical. He said, but they have these big regulations on these, what I guess you'd call it, the processed food industry. He said, but they don't have the GMOs. They don't have the Roundup, the glyphosate. They don't have these toxins sprayed on the food, and people are not sick. They're not chronically ill, like in the United States, which, again, I think is a very, very big thing to talk about. And I think this is something that HHS really needs to start taking up. They need to start looking at the data. They need to start coming forward. And by the way, one of the groups, too, that came out to expose all this was indeed what's it called? I think it's called, let me see. I just had it, too. Child's Health Defense. Yep, which RFK largely works with, by the way. They were one of the groups that came out and said, hey, you got to take this out. You're wiping out the ability to sue these pesticide companies. I mean, it's got to stop. Cancer, Parkinson's, infertility, it's got to stop. Over 57,000 products, no accountability. How could we allow this to happen? And I'll go a step further. This has got to stop in the vaccine industry, which I want to close with this article coming out of NBC News. It says here now that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which I call the Disease Creation and Production, obviously you understand why, on Monday announced an unprecedented overhaul of the childhood vaccine schedule that recommendations call for fewer shots to all children. I told you before, RFK Jr. is doing really, really great things with HHS and, of course, with people's health. So I'm extremely happy to see this. But under the change, effective immediately, the vaccine schedule will more closely resemble Denmark's, recommending all children get vaccines for 11 diseases compared with the 18 previously on the schedule. So senior Health and Human Services Department officials said that the changes are meant to restore trust in public health that spilled over from the COVID pandemic. A good thing, I think this is very good, that kids will get less shots. I believe in Denmark they get, 11 total, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas in the United States, you're getting up to, at least 72, if not a couple more. I think it's up to 77 if you take in all the recommendations. So, not a good thing, but here's the problem. You've got to fix what's inside the shots. And this is why I want RFK Jr. to go in and take out the aluminum, take out the mercury, this heavy metal toxicity, take out the formaldehyde, which causes cancer. We talk about childhood cancer rates going up. Look what's in these shots. Squalene, polysorbate 80, aborted fetal cell tissue, foreign animal cell tissue. I mean, it's got to stop, folks. And there needs to be a whole new assessment of the self-efficacy in all these shots, and of course the safety of all these shots, because there hasn't been any meaningful testing for these shots in quite some time, because, as many of you know, because you listen to my show, the Childhood Immunity Act that Reagan signed in 1986 took all the accountability away from all these major vaccine manufacturers. You can't sue them. You can go to civil court and sue, but you can't sue them directly. The idea at the time was that Reagan didn't want, or at least the people that represented Reagan, didn't want people to sue these vaccine companies, them to lose, obviously, stock and revenue, and then illnesses would spread again, which again is nonsense in and of itself. We know that water sanitation plays a major, major role in, obviously, the prevention of a lot of these diseases children are vaccinated with nowadays. But this has got to stop. They've got to check out what's in these vaccines. They've got to lower the rates of these. And by the way, any vaccine given under the age of 3 really doesn't make any sense in a medical sense, because no children even have a active or working immune system till about the age of 3. They just don't have the system yet to what it needs to be. So I wanted to go over that with you. I thought that's something very, very positive. I like this. I like that we're tackling these issues. I like that we're bringing it to the foreground, and we're talking about this. We're talking about the glyphosates. We're talking about the food dyes. We're talking about what's inside the vaccines. And we should have talked about it at least 35 years ago. I guess better late than never, though, right, folks? I think so. Maybe you do, too. Hopefully you do. So, again, public health, make America healthy again. It's on the rise, folks, and I'm happy to see it. So I applaud RFK Jr. I applaud the people that are working with him in HHS to get all these toxins out of our food supply, and, of course, in a lot of these medicines, and, of course, in these vaccines alike. Folks, thank you again for being here today. I appreciate you so much. Hope you learned something new, and we'll share with the show today with others. Make sure you're staying prepped. Make sure you're storing up your food, your water, ammo, money, gold, tools, anything you need to be self-sufficient. It's very important that you do so. Remember, it all starts in the home, folks. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you back here tomorrow for more groundbreaking news on the next Marco Jure Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.